Joe Gibbs Racing is the true definition of a team that scratched and clawed their way to get to have championship contenders year in and year out. A team that elevated themselves through many of NASCAR's point systems and many of NASCAR's drivers, throughout many of NASCAR's Hall of Famers, and throughout many of NASCAR's biggest moments. This is going to be the story of Joe Gibbs Racing. In 1992, Dale Jarrett would be hired to drive the number 18 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. Dale Jarrett was an up-and-coming driver and the son of one of NASCAR's gentlemen named Ned Jarrett. Everyone had high expectations for Dale Jarrett, but when he was coming to Joe Gibbs Racing, nobody knew what was going to come out of this small team that was owned by the Washington Redskins coach. However, Dale Jarrett made us all look silly by elevating the team to a top 10 team to a top 5 team week in and week out, including a best points finish of 4th in 1993. He also gave us this iconic 1993 Daytona 500 finish.
It's the Dale and Dale show. It's become off of turn 4. You know who I'm pulling for. It's Dale Jarrett. Bring her to the inside, Dale. Don't let him get down there. He's going to make it. Dale Jarrett's going to win the Daytona 500.
Dale Jarrett would leave Joe Gibbs Racing to join Robert Yates Racing because after the death of Davey Allison, they needed a strong driver that could help the team. This would inevitably give him his 1999 championship. But during this, Bobby Labonte was pulling away and driving the number 18 Joe Gibbs Interstate Batteries Pontiac to a championship-eligible team. The team just kept getting better. A 1997 points finish of 7th, a 98 points finish of 6th, a 99 points finish of 2nd, which would eventually and in turn give him the 2000 NASCAR Winston Cup Series championship. However, we have to go a year prior before 2000, because Joe Gibbs would end up hiring IndyCar driver Tony Stewart to drive his number 20 car, which was opening up a second ride at Joe Gibbs. No longer was the 18 green Pontiac the main car. Now he was going to have the number 20 orange Pontiac. Over the course of the next decade, Stewart would constantly be in the championship mix, as well as racking up 2 championships during his time at Joe Gibbs, these coming in 2002 and 2005. However, Stewart would leave Joe Gibbs Racing, but we're going to get to that later on in the video. However, after Bobby Labonte's 2000 championship, the next couple of years were not very kind to Bobby Labonte. He would score his final win at Homestead, Miami in 2003, but even still, everybody knew that Labonte wasn't the same driver we knew in 2000. In fact, his final season with Gibbs in 2005, he would finish 24th in point standings. That's just abysmal. But as if the organization wasn't having any other bad news, their development team, which was the number 11 car sponsored by FedEx, wasn't doing too well either. They had various drivers, but none of them really did anything. They had Jason Leffler, who did nothing for the team, but one driver stood out, and that was Denny Hamlin, who would get the opportunity to drive the team full-time in 2006. Denny Hamlin lit the world on fire with his 2006 campaign. He would get a third-place points finish, and it would also include his first win at Pocono in that season. Over the course of the next couple of years, Denny Hamlin was a high-profile top 10 driver to top 5 driver. Some weeks he would be a threat, and some weeks he would not. But in 2010, he would get 7 wins and would finish 2nd in the point standings. Definitely a championship caliber driver. In 2011, he would finish 9th in the point standings, and in 2012, he would finish 6th. Okay, back to top 10 to top 5 driver on most weekends. But in 2013, with some injuries sidelining him, he would finish 25th in the point standings, his lowest ever. But in typical Denny Hamlin fashion, he would come back from that and would come in 2014 with 1 win at Talladega and would finish 3rd in the championship mix, 6th at Homestead, Miami, the final race of the season. The next couple of years, Denny Hamlin was once again back to a top 10 to top 5 driver. He would, however, get the 2016 Daytona 500, a race that had eluded him for a pretty long time. But in 2018, he would go winless for the first time. In typical Denny Hamlin fashion, however, he would come back better than ever, getting a 2019 Daytona 500 trophy, as well as being a championship driver throughout the season. 2020 started off the same way, a Daytona 500 trophy to his name. Overall, he's had 5 wins this year, and him and Kevin Harvick have become the dynamic duo. Not being compared to his teammates and not really having much competition with him, he's looking like an early championship favorite. And he best better, as he's one of the best drivers who doesn't have a championship. Well, that was a happy long-term story. So whatever happened to that 18 car we talked about? Who was Bobby Labonte's replacement? Well, they would end up hiring IndyCar driver J.J. Yeley. There wasn't a whole lot of expectations for J.J. Yeley just to get him some seat time in a Cup car, but man did he bust out.
It looks like Yeley decided to come down into pit lane and didn't let everybody behind him know, and I mean took out 2 good race cars.
Not only do people remember him for ruining Mark Martin's championship chances, but also for the fact that he did absolutely nothing for the team. So that was a bad experience. They needed to hire a new driver for 2008, and that driver being Kyle Busch, perhaps one of Joe Gibbs Racing's most iconic drivers. He would be paired up with Dave Rogers on the 18 pit box. The two of them would get 98 top 5s from 2008 to 2014 and 253 top 10s, including a best points finish of 4th in 2013. Most weekends, he was just a top 10 to top 5 driver, easily capable of winning and a lower division king. But he needed to elevate himself more. For 2015, he would be paired up with Adam Stevens. Things were looking good until he broke his leg in his Daytona crash in the Xfinity Series.
Eric Jones around, back across the field. The big one, part 2 at Daytona.
Yeah, they can't do this. Looks like there might have been some contact there.
There you see Kyle, top of your screen.
Kyle bumps into Larson and it turns him to the left. Elliott Sadler hit there by Brendan Gaughan.
But Kyle Busch wasn't done yet. He would have 1 pole, 12 top 5s, and 16 top 10s. He wasn't even done making a championship run. In fact, that 5th win came with a lap of a lifetime.
Flag will go in the air.
White flag. Coming back no matter what by 20. No
One
worries
more
back there.
time
Get your mark.
around. Kyle Busch missed the first 11 races of the season with a broken leg and a broken foot after an accident at Daytona.
It's by 20.
Down the backstretch. His closest competitor, just a dot in the rearview mirror. Through 3 and 4. No one has battled through as much pain and had as much perseverance as 30-year-old Kyle Busch. Tonight he earns his first Cup title. Kyle Busch, the 2015 NASCAR Sprint Cup champion.
Oh my God! Look at you, Kyle Busch, I've never seen anything like it. Thank you so much. Thanks, team. Great job! Adam Stevens.
The next year in 2016, he would get 17 top 5s, 25 top 10s, and 2 poles. Once again, he would find himself in contention for the 2016 championship. Unfortunately, however, the 22 of Joey Logano got a better restart at Homestead Miami than Kyle Busch, and Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus played the right fuel strategy to get their 7th championship together. In the end, Kyle Busch would finish 3rd in the point standings in 2016. Not a bad post-championship season by any means. 2017 started off slow for Kyle Busch, but once they got on their feet, at the end of the day, they would get 5 wins, 14 top 5s, and 22 top 10s, as well as 8 poles, his most in a season. In 2017, he would finish second in the point standings, outrunning Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick, making it a battle between him and his affiliate co-teammate, which we'll actually talk about later, Martin Truex Jr. In 2018, Kyle Busch exploded, getting 4 poles, 22 top 5s, and 28 top 10s, as well as getting 8 wins in a single season. He also checked off the Coca-Cola 600, a race that had eluded him for a very long time. Also, he had now won on every single track on the NASCAR schedule. Unfortunately, at Homestead, Miami, he wouldn't be able to captivate the championship, and would finish 4th when it was all said and done. In 2019, we would see 1 pole, 5 wins, 27 top 10s, and 17 top 5s. But the playoffs were pretty mediocre for Kyle Busch. He would have a couple of mistakes during the playoffs that would get him involved in a bit of controversy at Las Vegas and a couple of crashes throughout his time. Even despite being the regular season points leader, the system said you had to win in order to get the championship, or finish highest at Homestead Miami, either one. With the other drivers having mistakes, such as Martin Truex Jr. having a tire issue, and Kevin Harvick's car being crazy loose, Denny Hamlin putting too much tape on his car, it left Kyle Busch alone with the championship at the end. This lap would be his 2nd lap of a lifetime.
This evening, 119 laps have been led. Kyle Busch, he's the winningest driver of the decade, and now he is joining elite company. Kyle Busch is going to win his 2nd Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series championship.
While 2020 has been pretty mediocre for Kyle Busch, it doesn't go without saying that his 56 wins in the Cup Series, 52 of those came at Joe Gibbs Racing. That's pretty impressive if you ask me, as well as 2 championships. He never conquered the Daytona 500, however, the race that had eluded him for a very long time. So back to the 20 car. Whatever happened to it? Well, Joe Gibbs would end up hiring Joey Logano after Logano would leave Roush's development program. Unfortunately, Logano really did nothing for the team. He would win a rain-shortened race at New Hampshire in 2009, his first NASCAR Cup victory, but in the end he would find his most success at Team Penske, winning the 2018 championship. In the end, they would hire Matt Kenseth. Kenseth would get 15 wins for Joe Gibbs Racing from 2013 to 2017. His best season being 2013, where he would finish 2nd in the point standings, and would have 7 wins that year. All in all, though, Matt Kenseth was a consistent driver for Joe Gibbs Racing. A driver that wouldn't always win with a bang and wouldn't always be a championship contender, but could solidify results and get results, and that's what mattered. Unfortunately, he would get booted out of the ride in favor of a young kid named Erik Jones. Now don't get me wrong, Erik Jones is talented in his own ways. In fact, he made a run for the 2016 Xfinity Series Championship and won the Truck Series Championship in 2015. But with his 2 wins in the Cup Series and constantly being a bubble driver, he's usually mediocre. I wouldn't say mediocre, but I think the better term to say is that he just needs more experience in the Cup cars. While he is good at driving a Cup car in some ways, he's always been in the silly season conversation. Erik Jones is nothing like Matt Kenseth, and the fact that Kenseth got booted out of the 20 is honestly a travesty if you ask me. But that's just my opinion. Say what you want about Erik Jones, but his future is pretty uncertain at Joe Gibbs Racing. All in all, I'll be excited to see what happens out of this 20 team. So anyways, back to the 4th car for Joe Gibbs Racing. Yes, we've talked about Joe Gibbs having 3 cars. The 11, the expansion car, the 18, the car that's been here since the beginning, and the 20, the car that Tony Stewart had, but had sponsorship, so it needed a driver to carry it on. The fourth car for Joe Gibbs Racing would be piloted by none other than Carl Edwards. Carl Edwards would finish 4th in 2016 in the point standings, getting per se dumped on a restart. Well, I wouldn't say dumped, but I would just say that Joey Logano didn't really lift for Carl Edwards, which, I mean, you have to race aggressively in order to win the championship. And he would finish 5th in 2015 in the point standings. All in all, Edwards was a solid driver, and even those twilight years would feature this, he would announce his retirement. The driving duties would now be handed over to Mexican driver Daniel Suarez. Suarez was absolutely mediocre, but you can't really blame him. He had no experience in a Cup car, and after winning his championship in the Xfinity Series in 2016, he was just rushed up to Cup. It wasn't smart, but I mean they really had no other option. I hope to see Suarez actually succeed now that he has experience in a Cup car. Now before we talk about the replacement of the number 19 car, we have to talk about that certain driver's previous place. This was Furniture Row Racing. Let's talk about alliances. Normally when a big team has a lot of money and they feel like they need other cars to give equipment to, they're going to make an alliance. Stewart Haas has a temporary alliance with Go Fast Racing, and Hendrick has a technical alliance with JTG Daugherty. Joe Gibbs has an alliance with Levine Family Racing, which is the team they currently have an alliance with right now. Furniture Row Racing is probably the most successful tale in this, as they captivated the 2017 NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series Championship. While that happened, sponsorship brewing behind the scenes wasn't too pretty. Even though they had 5 Hour Energy and Bass Pro Shops as solidified sponsors, 5 Hour Energy left the team, and they haven't been in NASCAR since. This ultimately led the team to shut down. The current alliance that Joe Gibbs Racing has started off with Levine in 2019, with Matt DiBenedetto behind the wheel. DiBenedetto would have that Bristol moment, which caught everyone's attention and captured the hearts of many fans, as we all know. Unfortunately, it wasn't a win. Currently, Christopher Bell is driving the number 95 car because Matt DiBenedetto left to join the Wood Brothers in 2020. Christopher Bell has been good, but mechanical failures have been putting them deep in a playoff bubble. It's unfortunate, but we'll have to see what happens. So with Furniture Row shutting down, Martin Truex Jr. would join the number 19 team. In this, he would get 7 wins in 2019 and would finish 2nd in the points. The only thing stopping him from winning that championship was because they put the the rear tires in the front end and the front tires in the rear end. 2020 has been solid with 1 win at Martinsville, but they've been nowhere in 2019 speed. We'll just have to see what happens with that team. So there you have it, the story of Joe Gibbs. How a team with the Washington Redskins coach managed to elevate themselves above the competition. How a team took a chance on Toyota. How a team from out of nowhere popped into NASCAR and rattled championships. That is the story of Joe Gibbs Racing.